Hey everybody, I'm Giovanni, aka the Terrible Australian of Supermarcy.com, and this is my video review of Ted 2, which of course is the sequel to the 2012 comedy Ted, which was directed by Seth MacFarlane. So let's get right into it. Now I'm going to say it right now, I actually do like Seth MacFarlane. Like, I know he's sort of a very polarizing figure amongst a lot of people. He's a person that people either love or they absolutely hate. And of course, but for me personally, I enjoy his stuff and all that. I mean, I enjoy Family Guy. I enjoyed American Dad and a few other shows as well. And I have to say, I really enjoyed his first film, Ted 2, which I thought was a really funny, really sweet, dirty, of course, comedy. And I was definitely... Well, it sort of worked as a self-contained film, and when I heard that he was going to make a sequel, I wasn't sure if it was really necessary, but at the same time, I was still open to, check it out anyway. And having seen the film, I have to say, well, I don't think it's as good as the first Ted, but on its own, I thought it was a pretty solid sequel. Like, I did think, I don't think this one is as consistently hilarious as the first Ted was, which I thought which was a film that sort of made me laugh every few minutes and all that. But this one, though, it is a bit sort of uneven, because you'll have some scenes that are really hilarious, and then you'll sort of have a couple of scenes where it kind of just feels do seem to drag a bit, and it just not quite funny at all, especially in the jokes in those scenes. But that being said, though, it still delivers on the laughs, and even though it's not, like I said, it's not as consistently funny as the first film was, but it still delivers in being a really fun, really entertaining, and of course really funny sequel. And I also I thought Mark Wahlberg and Seth MacFarlane are coming back as our main characters, and particularly Seth MacFarlane as the voice of Ted. I think they both have great chemistry together, and they brought a lot of the film's humour and charm and likability to it, even though they are sort of kind of slackers and stuff like that. But they bring so much to their roles, and you can definitely tell that they're having a great time playing these characters. And of course, you got new addition, and there's also returning actors like Giovanni, Ribisi, Jessica Barth, and a few others. Oh, Patrick Warburton as well. And they all do sort of really... And they also, given a bit more to do in this sequel, and they also deliver really good performances. And of course, you got some newcomers as well. You got Amanda Seyfried, who joins the cast, who I thought did a really wonderful job with her performance. And of course, Morgan Freeman is in this film as well. And, he brings sort of a bit of classiness to the whole proceedings. And, of course, there's a couple of cameos as well, especially one in particular, which I'm not going to spoil, but you'll know exactly what it is when you see it. And also, one of the things I really liked about it is the plot. Like, about the first 20 minutes or so, I did think was a bit aimless, because it sort of focused on Ted and his now wife, Tami-Lynn, who's played by Jessica Barth's sort of marriage, a few months after their wedding, and things haven't been going well. So sort of get their marriage working, and they decide to have a kid, and of course complications arise, and since Ted's not a human being, he's basically a piece of property. He doesn't have the same rights as other humans do. So, and of course, this film sort of goes into this courtroom sort of area, and sort of delivers, and it kind of has this really interesting sort of civil rights kind of, and then it sort of goes into sort of more of a civil rights type of story, which I found really interesting, and it actually brought a little bit of sort of weight to the film, and especially around this time, with now gay marriage now being legal across the United States, and also, unfortunately, there's still the debate about gay marriage here in Australia, and other civil rights that have been going on all over the world. It's the plot of this film does feel a bit very topical, and it actually sort of, in a way, kind of addresses all the what's going on in the world today. And I got to give the film credit for actually doing that. And so you can tell Seth MacFarlane that these type of topics are very, you know, he's very passionate about these topics and he has a lot to say about them. And I think he and his co-writers did a really good job at sort of delving into these sort of themes and all that, and also these ideas without it being too heavy-handed or anything like that, which I thought sort of, like I said, gave the film a bit more of a weight to it than the first film did, at least in that regard. And also, but at the same time, it knows exactly what it is. It's sort of a silly, dirty comedy that has a lot of pop culture references, which I thought were pretty funny, and especially the last half of the movie, which is sort of set at New York Comic Con, which I found that entire section to be absolutely hilarious. And there's this great scene where basically cosplayers, minor spoilers for the film, cosplayers kind of get into a fight in each other, and in a way it's kind of like a sort of a funny moment, because you're seeing sort of like these kind of, you know, characters we've all known and grown up finally getting a chance to fight each other. You got Captain Kirk fighting somebody dressing up as Captain Kirk fighting somebody who's dressed up as Captain Picard, or, you know, and a bunch of others, as, you know, sort of similar like that. So you kind of, in a way, it's kind of like if you're a fanboy, this section, even though they're not the actual characters, you kind of get this kind of thrill from seeing that scene, and I really enjoyed that scene, and also, you know, I kind of really sort of like the chemistry between Mark Wahlberg and Amanda Seyfried, and their you know, relationship, and how Ted fits into it. And I just think it's just a really good film, and I know sort of like Seth MacFarlane, sort of gets a lot of flack because he sort of is a dude who's mostly, you know, relies on pop culture references and, you know, lowbrow humor and all that, and not really sort of going for any emotional center. But I think with this film, and as well as the first Ted, he does still do that, but at the same time he does bring sort of emotional weight to the story, so that at least we do care about these characters and what they're going through and what they struggle with, and we just also hope that they succeed as well. But to me, the core relationship, of course, is Mark Wahlberg's character and, of course, Seth MacFarlane as Ted. I think without these two, I don't think both this and the first film would have succeeded as much as they do, because both of Mark and Seth have great chemistry, and it's always a joy when they're on screen together. So overall, Ted 2 is a really good sequel. Like I said, I don't think it's as good as the first one. Like I said, the plot does feel a bit uneven at times, and there are some jokes that do miss, but at the same time, it's still an enjoyable film. That it does deliver some laughs, and there's also some that I quite enjoyed a lot, and I think it's a fun little sequel. Like, not necessary. It's definitely not a necessary sequel by any means, but for what it is, I think it's a pretty solid one nonetheless. So, now if I had to give this film a rating, I gave the first Ted 4 stars back in 2012. So if I had to give my rating for the sequel, Ted 2, would be 3.5. Like I said, it's not perfect, it's a bit uneven, but it's still a pretty enjoyable film nonetheless. But it just doesn't feel as fresh as the first one does. So yep, that's my video review of Ted 2. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys all later. See you everyone. Bye.